Welcome one and all to another stunning edition of the NerdWatch Nation. Take two. We're calling this episode 2 The Attack of Comic-Con, which of course is this week. Starting tonight, as a matter of fact. I, of course, am the one and only G-Money. I am joined by the professor, the one and only Professor Barry. Professor Barry, how you doing, sir?
Doing good, buddy.
Doing good? Doing all right?
Yeah.
All right, listen, we we don't want to give away too much. We always want to, leave everything to the imagination. But we had a little technical difficulty with our first recording, so we figured we'd do it one more time for everyone out there who's listening, and want you guys to we had an issue with the audio. Now we'll hopefully get this back up to where it's supposed to be. I don't know why I'm wearing these headphones because I can't hear anything anyway. I just realized that I can't hear Jack. I have these headphones on thinking I can hear something. I can't hear it.
It looks cool, buddy.
I can't hear a dang thing out of them. Anyway, welcome everybody to the NerdWatch Nation. If you don't know what the NerdWatch Nation is, it's myself, G-Money, Professor Barry. We come to you with all things that pertain to nerd culture, from movies to games to TV to Comic-Con, as a matter of fact. Barry, Professor Barry, how you doing today, sir?
Doing good.
Doing well. How's your week been since the last time we met?
It's been good. It's been good. Just catching up on some movies like yourself, trying to catch all the summer movies before they circulate out of the theaters. But for the most part, seeing some good stuff.
Now, got a couple of movies to talk about.
Yep.
2 that I caught up on, but more important, I caught up on 3 technically. But there's one that you watched this week that I have been tremendously interested in. Haven't had an opportunity to see it myself. You watched the Chris Evans movie, Snowpiercer.
Yes, by Wong Joon-ho. This is the guy who wrote and directed The Host, which is one of my favorite monster movies of the last 10 years. Snowpiercer was such a nice surprise. It helped a lot, of course, that I hadn't seen the trailer for it.
Right.
So it was a completely fresh experience going in. The gist of the movie that is basically Mad Max on a train, which works really, really well, surprisingly, for the first 20 minutes. Instead of it getting old and it's not the same post-apocalyptic story, it's one of these movies that just kind of turns the knife in the narrative really crazily. It gets wilder and crazier and bigger. The scope of the thing is really huge. This is not a cheap little film. This is a state-of-the-art thriller. This is Chris Evans, as well as the great Ed Harris and Octavia Spencer. This is one of the sleeper films of the summer.
Now, is this a movie that was this a movie that was independently funded? Was it funded by? I know it's done by a Korean director. Was this funded by a Korean film studio?
I believe so. There's a lot of different production studios before the movie starts. It's one of these films where there's 7 or 8 different logos of different companies. So it seems like it was this international joint effort. And the cast certainly indicates that there's a lot of different cookies in the cookie jar.
It is Lionsgate that distributed it here, isn't it?
Actually, Weinstein Company.
Oh, it was the Weinstein Company.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they really? Okay. So that's surprising. I mean, we haven't really seen much of the Weinstein Company lately. Nothing. They're normally, as you could say, they're normally the award season studio.
Exactly.
So it's surprising they would come out with something like this. Haven't seen them in a while. So do you think this is a film that that can make a lasting impression enough for the people out there? Are people going to attach themselves to this film and its story?
It seems like, well, yeah, definitely. I mean, as an action movie, it's certainly something that's nice and refreshingly different from all the sequels and remakes, and some of which haven't been that good. This is a real breath of fresh air. On the other hand, I think this is one of these movies that's really going to catch on quite quickly. In terms of its box office, I was doing right now, it's made about $2.5 million, which is pretty good for a movie that's really under the radar, hasn't had a single trailer shown on television.
Right.
So it's strictly been word of mouth and the reviews and just the fanboy community really coming out for this movie. So it seems to me that it's probably going to be a blip overall in terms of how it plays in theaters, unfortunately. And we only had it here for 1 week in our local theater.
Snowpiercer is using a very interesting, which I would still consider a new model, which is releasing in the theater, but also releasing on demand.
Right.
So it's also available through iTunes. It's also available through Vudu. If you have one or the other, you can check it out there. If it's not playing at your local theater, which it is, of course. If you don't know by now, the NerdWatch Nation is based out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So it is hard for us sometimes out here to get films of note because we're so far away. But with on demand, it has really it's really impactful for places like here in the islands, because we can watch things that would not be exactly theater fodder, because we're always looking for the biggest and the best film, summer movie or big blockbuster, what have you. So Snowpiercer is one of those films that you can check out now. If you miss it in the theater, you can check it out on iTunes or on Vudu. It is available, and I believe it's on a bunch of on-demand video places. So check it out now. Snowpiercer is. Would you say that it's worth seeing? For sure.
It is. I saw it in the theater in the 5 minutes it played in the local theater, and I'm so glad I did. This movie really is made for the big screen, but the story is so arresting, and the action sequences are so stunning in their violence and their originality. I think this is one of these films that's going to play really, really well no matter how you see it and where you see it.
Now, it has very much a... when I did see the trailer, and Snowpiercer has very much almost a Terry Gilliam type of look. Or a vibe from the trailer. Is that that dystopian future kind of look to it, that ambiance? Does it have that? Is that purposeful, or is this what's the look or the tone of the film?
It's appropriate to make the Gilliam comparison, which is a favorable comparison as always, because Gilliam's a genius. In this case, the film begins in that way, and I don't want to give too much away. And again, I was just so nicely blindsided by where this film went. But it begins, as I said, like Mad Max on a train. It's post-apocalyptic. The look and feel of it is that this world, in the sense of this class battle that's beginning to escalate on the train. It's starting to materialize in terms of all the grime, all the dirt, all the dried blood, all the germs, and all the people who are trapped on this train and building this hierarchy that's going on. It does look and feel like a George Miller film, or even aspects of 12 Monkeys for maybe the first 20, 30, 40 minutes. And then the story takes some really crazy turns, and the visual look of the film, as well as the direction of the story, goes in different directions.
All right, so Snowpiercer, highly recommended.
Yes.
All right, so check it out. If you didn't see it in the theater here or anywhere, you can check it out on iTunes and on Vudu. I know those are the two biggest places you can check out Snowpiercer right now. It's for rent as well, surprisingly enough, for sale as well. You can own it. You can put it in your collection. Now, Professor Barry, I'm normally a guy that keeps up on all the films. I haven't caught up I haven't been keeping up as much as I should this past summer season, but... last time we talked Captain America. We talked, what was it? We talked Godzilla.
Yep. And
you talked about a couple of films that I didn't have a chance to see, which was The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Transformers Age of Extinction. I saw both. And I tell you what, let's start off with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Recap what your analysis was for everybody that missed last week.
Okay, in short, I just thought it was bloated, overstuffed. The heart of the first film is there in little spurts. The chemistry between Emma Watson and Andrew Garfield is still very strong, and it's the heart of the film, but I didn't feel like there was enough of it. On the one hand, there's not enough of the love story and the human center. On the other hand, there's too much of everything else. I feel, as we've talked about, Jamie Foxx as Electro, I felt like there was no progression to his character. It seemed like key parts of his transformation were left out of the film. I felt like the Rhino edition with Paul Giamatti felt really forced, and I was a little embarrassed for him, frankly. There's just too much in this movie. There's a lot of good stuff, but I feel like it's all kind of pushing each other out of the way, trying to make up screen time.
So that was your impression. What did you give it?
2 stars. 2 stars, because there are good scenes in it, and there are good moments in it, but I don't think it's a good film.
Not a good film for you?
No.
Well, I watched The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I have to tell you that I thought that on the majority of your points, you were absolutely right. What your recap of it is I completely agree with, except for the fact that I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed what was there. I enjoyed I enjoyed the chemistry between James Garfield and Emma Stone. They are palpable, I think. There is something between them that's electric, and it really works on screen. I mean, I know they're dating in real life, and normally when you have a terrible relationship in real life with your co-star, but you have hot chemistry on screen. It normally works the other way around. So surprisingly, they're dating, and they have this really good chemistry on screen, and it really shines through in the film. I did want more of that. I thought that was very well done. I thought that Emma Stone is... she is definitely underutilized in the film this time around. She was much better in the first one. But then again, we have to understand that we're moving on from her in a sense. So I think that's why they didn't want too much emotional attachment. But I think that would have been beneficial for the show by the end of the film, not to give anything away by any stretch. But you are right about Jamie Foxx. Not enough screen time. And he went from being a guy who loved Spider-Man to instantly transforming into Electro who hated Spider-Man. There was no in-between. It was one or the other. Didn't work for me. The Green Goblin was, like you said, he was just foisted onto the screen with no real issue of now he's angry at Spider-Man because Spider-Man won't give him his blood, which didn't work. It was too fast. Everything just came too quickly. For as bloated as it was, it just seemed like the story was kind of thin. I will say that the action scenes were amazing. The action scene with Electro and Spider-Man in Times Square was phenomenal. That was amazing. Love that scene. I love the way they represented Spider-Sense in the movie. How time slows down because his Spider-Sense. I thought that was super cool, and I really liked that. Something that they didn't do as much in the first one because he was still honing his skill. So I liked that a lot. I thought that the ending itself, the climax, I should say, was sad. I have to say that I thought it was very sad. I was even shocked, like, oh my goodness, and I totally had forgotten the comic book story about him and Gwen Stacy. I should say Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. And then the ending itself, the one that I thoroughly enjoyed was by the very end, when we finally see Paul Giamatti again, because he was at the beginning and then at the very end in the Rhino suit. It's not a big secret. I love the fact that Spider-Man at the end of the film is represented, I'm going to say, I'm not ruining anything, but it's represented by this little boy who I thought was, although a bit schmaltzy, I thought it worked. And I thought the hope of Spider-Man at the end of the film worked very well, and I did like that part. I got a little weepy, I got to admit, so I like that. Overall, I have to say that I think I liked it better than you did. I think I'd give it 3 stars. I think if I were to rate it, not as 5-star. It's not a 5-star classic like the original Amazing Spider-Man, which I thought was amazing. No pun intended. So yeah, I think I did like it better than you, and I think that this is just a jump-off point, and that's why we saw Giamatti at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Just because we know he's going to be in the new Sinister Six movie, or the new Amazing Spider-Man 3 film. So yeah, I think it's better than I thought it was going to be. So I have to say that I kind of enjoyed that. Now, moving on to what is the most successful film of the summer, and in most respects the worst film of the summer, excuse me, Transformers: The Age of Extinction.
If only.
If
only we were so lucky.
Well, it stars Mark Wahlberg, Nicola Peltz, Stanley Tucci, and Kelsey Grammer. Those are the 4 people of note. Age of Extinction picks up right at the... it seemed like it picked up where the second one or the third one ended. A few years later, where it looks like that the Transformers are now in hiding because they're responsible for what happened in Chicago, and from Dark of the Moon. And it is a very... I have to say that I thought Mark Wahlberg played it fine. I don't think he was great, but he wasn't bad. I thought Nicola Peltz, his daughter, could have been his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
She totally could have,
Sure.
right? Yeah, she's a cutie patootie for sure. Nice to look at. Didn't really stretch her acting legs in this film at all.
No one does. Really.
Yeah, no one really does. But then again, it seems as if they do that on purpose, because I think it seems like most of the actors know that they're in a Transformers movie, with the exception of one man, and that's Kelsey Grammer, who I thought did a very good job. He was understated while everybody was just over the top. He felt very understated, and he felt very real, and I like that. I thought that was very good. He kind of brought the tone of the film down, and he did a very good job at that. So hats off to him for that. I thought the story was a bit convoluted. There's no way you can get around that. I thought I thought that the story about the transformium and us using it as a weapon, I thought that was... I know you're laughing. I can already see you smiling. Transformium is the most ridiculous name.
The unobtainium.
It's
of
the
2014.
right. It's the unobtainium of 2014. By the way, did I tell you that unobtainium is not only from Avatar, but it's also from the core?
No.
Yep. Check it out.
Oh,
it's in the core.